The very first point they give us is 10, 2 here. So you need to make sure you understand the coordinate plane 1, 2, 3, and 4, x and y axis, and then how to plot these. The first coordinate, that 10, tells you left and right movement. So this first coordinate always tells you left or right. Left is going to be negative, right is positive. The second coordinate always tells you your up and down movement. So up is positive, down is negative. All right? And so you start at the origin and walk from there. If I'm going to the point 10, 2, I'm going to go right 10 and up 2. So I'm going to plot that point right here. The other thing you need to make sure you do is you label it. All right? That is the point S, so I should see the point S. And then what quadrant is that in? It's in the first quadrant. So over here somewhere you should tell me quadrant 1. You can put just a 1. You can put a Q1. Sometimes it's labeled, typically you'll see it labeled with Roman numerals. Roman numeral 1. All of those work. So as you go and plot these, we'll look at the next one. We'll look at T. So T is 9, negative 4. As you plot them, you're just going to walk left and right, in this case right, and then down 4. Plot it, label it, and then tell me what quadrant it's in. This is the point T. This is in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4. Now, if it's like the next one, if it's like U says 3, 0. Well, that's going to move 3 to the right, but it's not going to move up and down. So this is the point U. It is not in a quadrant. It is on an axis. Which axis specifically is this on? The x-axis, and that's how you're going to label that one. So that's what you're going to do for both of those. The next set of questions is exactly opposite. It just says state the coordinates. You don't have to tell me what axis this is in on this particular one for these instructions. Just make sure you read your instructions on your quiz. All right? But for this, you're just going to list these. So if I see that I have B, C, D, E, and F, those are the letters that I have, then I need to find them. So if I need to find B, I'm going left 8 and up 5. Left 8, up 5. So I'm going to indicate that with a negative 8 and a positive 5. And so that's what you're doing for this entire section here. You're finding those coordinates. You are telling me their address. Where are they located on the coordinate plane? So they've given you relations in different ways. I've actually given you 4 different ways. Up here I only show you 2. You could have a table. You could have a list of coordinates. You could have it graphed on the coordinate plane, or you could have a mapping diagram. Any of those are a way to show a relation between numbers. So it's always going to be a relation. Specifically now they're asking, is this a function? Remember, if it's a function, then your x cannot be repeated with a second y. All right, and so that's what you're looking for. If you look at this first one, 6 goes with negative 6 and negative 1, 1 and negative 3, 2 and 4, 7 and 1, 7 and negative 2. We have a problem. What's my problem?
2 7.
Yeah, we have 2 7s. This is not a function. This is really all you're telling me here. Is it a function or is it not a function? Same thing for number 6. If you look at your x values, I have an x. My x is repeated with 2 different y's. This one is also not a function. And so that's what you're looking for all of these, whether or not they are a function. And actually, if you continue on, we have some graphs that are actually given to us as well on page 6. Same kind of question there. We've already pretty much graphed things. We know how to do that. So you're going to graph all of these. You don't have to tell me what quadrant it's in. You're literally just graphing these. You'll notice that you don't even have labels for them. The whole entire thing represents the graph. And so you're just going to graph these, whatever you've been given. All right? The next thing it asks for is the domain and range. Remember, the domain is your x values. So these are your x values. You want to list them least to greatest. And you do not want to repeat. Do not repeat your numbers, even if the numbers themselves repeat. All right? So I'm going to look at all my x values. -5, -4, -1, 0, and 1. They were nice. They gave them to me least to greatest right there. So I'm going to just list those. Those are my domain numbers. My range then are my y values. And the same is true least to greatest and do not repeat for y values. So for y, I have -2, 7, -5, 3, and 0. So I'm going to do least to greatest. I'm going to start with that -5, then -2, then 0, 3, and 7. All right, that is my range. And then the last question is it a function? And once again, you can go back, did any of my x values repeat? No, they did not, so this is a function. So yes, this is a function. So you're either telling me, yes, it is a function, no, it is not a function for that last question there. Remember, for a mapping diagram, you're going to draw either a circle or a rectangle type figure. You're going to have one for your domain and one for your range. Make sure you label domain on the left and range on the right. Once again, you're going to list your x's in that domain, least to greatest going down. So if I look at these, I have -7, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Those happen to be in order, so I'm just going to list those down. And then I'm going to list my range in the other one. I have -4, -4, 0, -7, and 6. So -7 would come first, -4 would come after that, 0, and 6. And then I'm going to draw arrows from my domain to my range. So I'm going to take -7 and I'm going to draw an arrow from -7 to that -4. From 2 to that -4. From 3 to 0. 5 to -7. And 6 to 6. All right. And then the last part is I'm going to tell whether it is a function or whether it is not a function. All right. And so remember, all I'm looking for is, do each of these x values go to only one y? This -7 only goes to one y. The 2 only goes to one y. The 3 only goes to one y. 5 and 6, they each only go to one y. It doesn't matter that 2 of these go to the same y. That is fine. As long as each one of these only goes to one number, it is a function. So this is a function. On this page, again, it's asking, are these functions? If they give you a picture of it, you can do the vertical line test. Remember I said, if you draw a vertical line, it should only cross it once. And so if I draw a vertical line anywhere on this, I should only cross it one time. You can see this guy meets that requirement. That is a function. This, yes, this is a function. But if you look at the one below it, I have a problem. If I draw a vertical line, I cross that function more than once. If you can do that anywhere on it, it is not a function. And the reason it's not a function, remember, that means if I have the x value right here, which is -4, -4 gave me a y value up here and a y value down there. Not a function. That one x value gave me 2 y values if I can cross it twice. All right, so if that happens anywhere on the graph, those are not functions. That's what you're looking for when you've been given a graph. The difference here, it says graph the function for the given domain, and it gives you these 5 numbers for x. On number 24, it just says graph the function. All right, for both of these, you're going to create a chart, but the difference is for number 20, you are literally just going to plot 5 points, period. For number 24, you're going to pick 5 points, but then you're going to connect those dots, all right? And so for this one, The difference here is I have given you exactly what you need to use. So you are going to draw your chart with the X values that I have given you, and then you are going to plug it in. So I gave you -2, 1, 3, 6, and 8. The function was right here. It's given to you right there. -2, absolute value of x minus 3 plus 7. And so you're going to plug those in. You're going to say -2, and then I'm going to plug in -2 minus 3 absolute value plus 7. And I'm going to figure it out. -2 minus 5, minus 3 is -5. But the absolute value of -5 is 5. -2 times 5 is -10, plus 7 is -3. Y value. You're just solving for it. So if you need to do it off to the side, that's fine. But this is what we're doing over and over. We're just doing order of operations. All right, so you're just doing your order of operations to figure out your Y. I gave you your X. And you're going to do that all the way down. So if I plug in a 1, I'm going to get +3. If I plug in a 3, I'm going to get 7. If I plug in a 6, I'm going to get 1. And if I plug in an 8, I'm going to get -2. All right. So once you plug it all in, we're not going to take the time to go through all of those on how to solve them, because hopefully you know how to do all your solving for order of operations. These are your X and Y values, -2, -3. And I'm going to plot that point. And then 1, +3, that's my XY, and I'm going to plot that point. And you're going to go all the way down, and you're going to plot the points that you found. Those are your X's and Y's. And then you are done. You do not connect those dots. I only gave you 5 individual X's. You found your 5 Y's, and you plotted 5 individual points. That is what those will look like. All right? I will give you the domain. You will create a chart to figure out your range, and then you will plot your X's and Y's. For the next one, I have not given you anything, which means this is a continuous function. It goes on, right? And so here's what I want you to do for these. I want you to draw a chart, just like you did before. But you have to pick your X's. Here's what I would recommend you do for your X's. I would pick a couple of negative numbers, 0, and positive numbers. You need to have negative numbers, 0, and positive numbers. Which ones you choose are perfectly fine and up to you. I would choose smaller ones so that I'm not trying to graph. I mean, you'll notice on the graph I only gave you the -8 and +8 for X's. So I would probably stick within that realm there. But you are picking your numbers here because it can be any number, literally. So you're going to choose your numbers, a couple negatives, a couple positives, and 0. And then you are going to plug those in to get your points. And you should see, I mean, sometimes it'll be a pattern like this. All right. Then you're going to plot your points. The ones that I chose gave me -2, -3. So I'm going to plot that. -1, -6. 0, 7, 1, 6, 2, -3. And now I'm not just going to plot those points because it could have been any of those and it could go on continually. I'm actually going to connect those dots and I'm going to draw that arrow, because this function would include all the numbers in between the one that I chose, and all numbers continually on the ends of this particular function. All right, so that's the difference. On one, I handed you it and I said, hey, it's only these 5 numbers. Over here, I said it's this whole entire thing. And remember, we talked about when it keeps going, it has an arrow. It goes on infinitely. So you will choose your numbers, you will connect your dots, and you will draw arrows at the end for something like that.